Welcome to the Successful Real Estate Broker Podcast, where we learn about some success stories and some not so successful stories. But either way, we learn. Each episode, we talk with successful real estate agents and vendors about things they have done to make them successful and some things they did that you might want to avoid. Join us for each episode of the Successful Real Estate Broker Podcast with your host, Preston Sandlin.
All right, listeners to the podcast or to the Facebook Live or wherever. I want to release it everywhere, but I've got a special treat for you today on the Successful Real Estate Broker Podcast or YouTube cast, whatever you want to call it, live cast. I have Mr. Terry Rogers with us here this morning. How you doing, Terry?
Hey, I'm doing wonderful, Preston. I hope you are as well.
Yeah, awesome. To give you just a little bit of background, but I don't want to, I'll let this guy speak for himself because I know you could be listening to this anywhere. Every time I've ever gone to a function, this is the nicest guy, the most welcoming guy. I mean, I don't know. He's one of those guys that is always willing to help other agents. I've seen him do that and help vendors. Just a really welcoming, nice guy. And he's got something kind of cool that he's come up with that we'll get into. But before you do that, Terry, give us a little background. We'd like to get to know you personally.
All right. Well, Preston, of course. And I have to say, likewise, Preston, you really are very supportive of the real estate industry and agents and all the companies. And we truly appreciate you. We appreciate the food that you bring us. And just, you're an awesome guy as well. And it's a pleasure to be doing this together with you. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
So a little bit about me, as far as the real estate career. I actually started my real estate career with Keller Williams back in 2007. So guys, don't blame me for what happened shortly thereafter. Okay?
You got in at a great time, didn't you?
Yeah, I did.
You hung in.
I took my first listing 3 days into the business. So the Lord was looking after me. I'm very fortunate. I survived the downturn and have managed to do quite well. And so we've enjoyed our career in real estate as a second career. And part of the leadership group in our office as well. But we'll talk about in more detail about my real passion was 40 years ago when I got into law enforcement and security. And so that's what we're going to get into here shortly and tell you about that background.
Awesome. Well, I took a peek before. I tried to do a quick study, a little stalkerish there. Saw you're a graduate of Olympic High. And that you studied criminal justice and electrical. So did you do any electrical work or anything there? Or
yeah, good question, Preston. So I graduated Olympic, took some courses in electronics and electrical, and actually worked in the electrical industry in residential homes, wiring and such. It was one of my first primary jobs for the first 2 or 3 years after getting out of high school. So, I've got a background in electrical. I actually wired my own house before.
Oh, wow.
Many, many years ago. So that was an exciting project to undertake.
So how did you get into law enforcement? How did that come about?
Well, that was something that my mindset. I actually, going back to high school, I took junior ROTC in high school. So my mindset was more of a rigid military style, law enforcement style personality. And so I started applying into law enforcement agencies after I got tired of working in the electrical industry in the wintertime. Wintertime wiring houses is brutal. You can't wear gloves. It's cold. So that only lasted a couple of years. So I got into actually the first security was at McGuire Nuclear Station.
Okay.
I was a security officer there. They recognized my abilities and desire to get into a law enforcement environment, and came up with a special police program and put me into basic law enforcement training. So about a year after being hired at McGuire Nuclear Station, I was a special police officer, so a licensed police officer while working at the plant. I was also on their dedicated armed response team, which is basically a SWAT team.
Yeah, that's a pretty, aren't they a target for terrorists? They say the nuclear plant, like, that's you can't mess around with that.
Yeah, exactly. And their security, and we're talking about 40 years ago, Preston. So, back in 1980 and ongoing, the security service protection elements, redundancy in all their systems was extremely impressive. State-of-the-art type equipment, extremely large security force. So yes, they could be a target, but trust me, I would live next to the nuclear station and not give it a second thought. Nobody is going to get into that facility and do any damage. They're going to be.
That's a good feeling. I'm glad to hear you say that.
Overpowering force is definitely what they're all about there. So, but I tell you, the thing is, that was the most boring job I ever had.
Really?
Because again, you really don't see that threat element. We would see some protests and stuff, but the job itself was very boring. A lot of times you're on your feet for up to 12 hours at a time. So actually, once I got my law enforcement certificate, that's when I actively started pursuing law enforcement careers with a normal police agency, and wound up getting hired with the City of Charlotte Airport Police. Mm-hmm. They had their own department. There were City of Charlotte employees, but we were not Charlotte Police Department. That was a separate division. They, of course, had their own chief. So in conjunction with my time at the airport, I actually started out with the Charlotte Police Reserves. So that was as a volunteer officer. I wore the uniform. I drove the blue and whites back then. That was a good learning experience for me to give me that extra level of confidence, but that was as a volunteer. Mm-hmm. And so the actual for-pay job was with the Airport Police Department, where I stayed for until the early 90s, became a third shift supervisor, lieutenant with the Airport Police for several years. And that's where I really had a lot of good stories. I can tell you another day. A lot of good interaction with people. The airport is like its own little city. Yeah. So you run into just a little bit of everything, and that was a lot of fun.
Absolutely. Well, I'm sure over your stint with the airport police and the nuclear station, and you studied criminal justice and ROTC, you've had some training and experience with self-defense, and what to do in situations that you don't want, and a lot of times we don't think about that because we don't expect it, and I think that's kind of led you. And now you're in real estate, so you've sort of combined some of your experience and stuff. And if I'm not mistaken, you've come up with a safety course, which I think is really, really important. I know we all know a couple of years ago that Beverly, was it Beverly Day or some died? It was an agent out in the Midwest, I think, that got killed, unfortunately.
Yeah. There were several instances. That was one. They found her body by tracing her cell phone. Very tragic event. And we had another incident in Lynchburg, Virginia this year, where an agent was attacked, hit with a wrench multiple times. And fortunately, she was a second-degree black belt. So she fought back, and I think that saved her life. So, being aware of those instances made me realize that hey, I have never had any or been aware of any company that's done a formal agent safety training class. There's a pamphlet that the Real Estate Commission puts out, the Agent Safety Guide. So you may get that when you're hired, in some cases by a real estate firm, but I've never seen anybody with a formal safety training. So I wrote, it took me quite a while, so I wrote an agent safety course and utilized my experiences in law enforcement and in real estate, and came up with a guide that we'll get into topics of discussion here shortly, that can apply. Obviously, it's directed toward the real estate agent, but it can apply to any person in any business environment. And really excited about that. That's about a 2-hour discussion class for right now. And because of COVID, we really can't do a hands-on section or part of it with close contact. But that's something I'll work on as well. And so we might be able to include a little bit of hand-to-hand in that class at some point.
Awesome. Well, no, and I'm glad you're doing this because, and I'm pretty sure they touched a little bit on it in CE a couple of years ago, but, it was just one of many topics. And I know Gallagher talked about, I sponsor a lot of their classes, that I think there was an agent that got assaulted at a model home here here in Charlotte a couple of years back. So, I mean, unfortunately, or fortunately, whatever, agents are in a position where, sometimes they're just working with a client, or, they're at a model home and somebody comes walking in, they don't have control. Obviously getting in your car with somebody, you probably wouldn't do that until you vetted them pretty well, but still, there's times in the job of being a real estate agent that you are alone with somebody in a vacant house, or, I think some self-defense or self-awareness or just, thinking ahead we don't want to be a statistic. So I'm going to let you talk a little bit, and I know you're teaching a full class, but you're going to give us just a little bit, maybe some tips. And I know that hopefully if anybody's watching this, that you recommend that to your team leader or broker in charge, that, hey, this is a good class. We should do this, and we should bring Terry in to teach the full class. So I know you agreed to give us a little bit, just a little taste, an appetizer, I guess, of your class. So do you want me to pull up your couple of slides?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead and pull up the slides, Preston. And yeah, I am very anxious to bring that to any company, of course, in the Charlotte area. Of course, this is for a fee to do the 2-hour class. And although I'm with Keller Williams, obviously, if you're not a Keller Williams office, we'll kind of take the branding off of this and make it specific to your office. So that is just my contact information, and I'm sure we'll share this again with you, you folks out there. But please reach out to me by email, phone, text, to Terry Rogers, and we'll respond back to you as quickly as I can, and maybe get something on the calendar for next year, COVID protocols allowing for in-person classes, hopefully by that time. And so excited to be able to do that for you.
Yeah, that's for all the people listening, TD Rogers at kw.com. But like you said, he works for Keller Williams, but he will, take the branding off. It could be to your office. TD Rogers at kw.com. Or is it okay to give the phone number?
Oh, absolutely.
704-560-9630. And I'll give that out again at the end of, the end of our podcast. But, if anybody's writing it down, 704-560-9630. So, Terry, we talked a little bit about your background. I think it makes you uniquely qualified to do this.
Yeah, we did. We hit on the law enforcement and security background aspects. One thing that's a little unique that not too many people will probably be aware of is we actually had something called the North Carolina State Defense Militia from 1988 to 1996. The governor of North Carolina actually chartered that as a backup to the local National Guard. So I was a first lieutenant with a regiment based here out of the Charlotte area, and did that for several years, and slowly got out of some of the volunteer areas once I had my first child. The family comes first, and so there wasn't enough time to volunteer for everything. And so we left the Charlotte Police Reserve Program and the North Carolina State Defense Militia in the background. And once I did get out of law enforcement in the early 90s, I ran a security agency as a general manager, doubled that agency in size, and began one of the first company police agencies within private security here in the local area.
Awesome.
Just to give you a little bit more about my background, it is quite extensive. And so that's 15 years that, even though it's a long time ago, that seems like it was yesterday.
I hear you. Well, tell us a little bit about your course. What could we expect if we?
Well, yeah, we're going to cover a lot of topics. Personal safety. Of course, we'll talk about how you can protect yourself. We'll talk about showing protocols currently in place with the COVID-19 situation that we have as a realtor. We'll talk about office safety. And if you don't have an office policy for agent safety when they're out showing homes or doing open houses, I can help you develop one. The one that we use in our office is called the red file or red folder policy. We'll cover that in detail. And again, I'm happy to help any company set something like that up if they don't already have it. We'll talk about open house safety, including unoccupied listings and vacant homes. And I don't know if anybody out there has ever run across home squatters.
I have.
Probably you have. So you've seen some news coverage of that, haven't you?
Yeah. We one time we were doing an inspection. There were some people living in the crawl space. I mean, it was a kind of a high crawl space. They were literally living in there.
So yeah, that's a very unique situation, and so we'll kind of touch on that. But most of the programs, again, is geared toward your personal safety. Safety equipment that you might need to have, and I've got samples of things that I'm going to bring to class. This is a Cubiton. It could be used for self-defense. I'm not sure how many people have those. The thing I like about all of this stuff I'm getting ready to show you is they're really keychains. This is actually mace.
Oh no, I need to get that for my daughter.
So yeah, and they're very inexpensive. Now it's not a big you can hold in your hand. So you could easily buy 3 of these and have one in your car, one in your purse, or wherever. So they're easily accessible.
Terry, can you send me a link to that afterwards? Because my daughter's at Clemson and she has to park way away from her, and she has to walk back. And I worry about her late at night. I was like, I got to get her some sort of mace or something like that.
Well, yeah, absolutely. And get up with me, and I may have an extra. I tried to buy 2 or 3 of everything. And this is a great little device too. It's also a keychain, or it can go around your wrist. If you pull this little pin, it's going to make a horrible noise and draw attention. And that's the biggest thing. And if you're in a dangerous situation, is drawing attention to yourself is so important. And so we're going to show you some examples of, again, safety equipment you can have. One of the biggest things that I do is carry we used to call them Cal lights, a 3-cell metal flashlight in the front seat of my car.
Right.
Trust me, that's a very good weapon to protect yourself. It's not something that's alarming to anyone that would see it. But if you know what you're doing, it could be a very effective weapon. And we're also going to cover some other information about concealed carry, pros and cons. A lot of people have a concealed carry permit these days, and that can be a good thing. But what if you have to use it? Hey, that's a scary situation to be in. What about collateral damage? You know, you may put down the assailant, but what if you put down a couple of your coworkers? You know, we're going to have some serious discussions. It's a fun class, but there are some serious discussions that'll make you think. And obviously, we're going to talk about some self-defense options. Flight being always the best option. If you can flee the area, Preston, I don't care what type of training that I have or you may have, it's always better to flee the situation and let the law enforcement handle it if at all possible. You know, protect yourself, protect the ones that you're with. But if it comes down to fighting, we're going to talk about that too in a minute. The next slide, you're
Hello, I'm Bill Gallagher with Superior School of Real Estate, and I'm here with Preston Sandlin of Home Inspection Carolina. Preston, I've always liked your style, especially those pants, and also I've been interested in the home inspection business for a long time.
Well, Bill, that's ironic. I've always admired your style, and I've always admired your ability to educate these fine folks for sometimes 4-8 hours a day. I wish that I could do what you do.
Hey Preston, wouldn't it be cool if we switched? Preston, we sure got what we wished for, buddy.
We sure did. And now that you're the expert, Bill, I mean, you are wearing the pants, and I'm the instructor and the educator. Tell us what Home Inspection Carolina is doing these days to make the home buying process easier for realtors and home buyers.
Well, Preston, all our home inspection reports now are online for the real estate agent and the client to review the report online and to be able to create a repair list basically online by either clicking repair, accept, monetary compensation, and once they prepare the request, they can then press email, text, or print right then.
You mean it's all automated, Bill?
Absolutely, we are high tech.
Wow. What else is Home Inspection Carolina doing different these days?
Well, Preston, we're training our home inspectors to be non-alarmist. We are training them to put things into perspective and to simplify the message for the homeowner.
Non-alarmist is key, Bill. You remember those days of the 100-page reports and those 3-ring binders that would just go on and on and on, la 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 la. Thank you for being a good non-alarmist.
And Preston, one more thing. We fix the small stuff for free. Do you remember when home inspectors always put those little nitpicky items on those reports?
Oh, bless their hearts.
Well, at Home Inspection Carolina, if we can fix it in 5 minutes or less, we do it for free. We're better with a caulk gun than a keyboard any day. We just fix it.
You mean there's no cost for this, Bill?
Preston, it's free.
Wow.
Well, Preston, these pants really are a catch.
Well, Bill, I've enjoyed wearing the suit, but I don't think I could wear it every day because I got to fix the small stuff for free, and I don't want to ruin a good suit.
Preston, it's been a lot of fun flipping the switch.
getting ready to pull up. That is kind of the key to my whole class, Preston. Situational awareness. I like that slide. I mean, the eagle and the cat. I mean, we won't take a lot of time with that, but I mean, we could both probably make a case for who's got the advantage here,
Right.
Depending upon certain situations. The eagle's pretty intimidating and pretty powerful.
Yeah.
But,
I think if I was either one of them, I would go with your first option to flee.
yeah, absolutely.
If I was the eagle, I would flee. If I was the cat, I would flee. I don't know. I think my
Well,
be on the eagle.
Being aware of your surroundings constantly. And the thing about that, situational awareness is a mindset. It's all up here. It's a mindset and it's a habit. It's not exclusive to law enforcement officers or first responders or military personnel. It's a mindset. And that's what we're going to talk about for 2 hours is all of the different topics of discussions that we had on the previous screen. We're going to talk about situational awareness and plan of action in case this were to happen or that were to happen, or if there's a building fire, things like that. So
I'll have to,
one of my favorite slides. I like that slide.
I'll have to tell you something too about that, Terry, with situational awareness. So we love to travel. My wife and my daughters and I, and you know, we've been to, you know, you like to go on those cruises and stuff, and you get off these places, and you know, but the one thing, or wherever we go, I feel like I'm the one who's, you know, I love my daughters and but because, you know, I've experienced bad stuff, and I know deprivation, and I know, you know, that I don't think they realize sometimes you're not in balance. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
I'm the one who's always like eyes in the back of my head, looking around constantly, because I just, and you don't know when you're in another place, you know nothing about where you are. You know, and I mean, I hate to say that, but you know, sometimes like you get off a highway, you know, to stay the night at some hotel. I mean, little do you know, you just knew it was off the highway, but little did you know that that was in the highest crime rate part of that town. You know, I always, you know, it's like I love traveling with my kids and stuff, but they enjoy it, but I don't. I'm a little paranoid, but paranoid keeps you alive.
Well, it does, Preston, and I'm going to give you two real examples of situational awareness. I was almost mugged in Austin, Texas. My wife and I went for a little walk near the state capitol, and I was seconds away from being mugged. And I'm not going to tell you how I got out of that situation, and I'm going to save that for the class. But being situationally aware of what was getting ready to happen, and taking the appropriate action. I didn't get in a fight. I didn't have to threaten the two assailants. It wasn't just one, it was two people.
Wow.
But I took some action that prevented it from escalating, and very, very fortunate in that. In another situation, again, traveling, we're going to talk about, we check into a hotel, right? We're, you know, big multi-story hotel, and what are the first things that we're looking for? A lot of times it could be the bar, of course. See where the bar is located at. For some of us folks, it might be the bathrooms. Okay, it was a long drive. Where's the bathrooms? But, you know, we're going to talk about what we should be looking for is like the emergency escape routes.
Yeah.
Where are the fire exits? What happens when, in actual case, again, out of town, fire alarm goes off at 3 in the morning, and you get out of your room and there's a line trying to get down to the nearest fire escape stairwell. Well, there's always more than one, right? There's at least two. So where's the second one? The second one turned out to be much easier to exit the building than standing in line and waiting to go down a set of stairs for 7 stories. You know, a little scary. So we'll talk about things like that as well.
No, that's great. And also, you know, and I don't mean to step on your thunder or whatever, but I'm like that too. And I'm always like, just kind of scanning the crowd, looking for any anomaly, something doesn't fit. Somebody looks a little out of place, or, you know, like, okay, that person right there, they don't, maybe I'm, you know, my wife thinks I'm paranoid, but I just like, I'm telling you, if you talk to any veteran of any kind of special forces or something, they'll tell you paranoia keeps you alive.
It does. Looking out for that unusual person, somebody wearing a long trench coat in warm weather,
Yeah.
you know, that's a big red flag. There's something not right there.
Or some crazy pants, you know, you never know.
Oh yeah, crazy pant people, man, you really got to watch them. You never know.
Watch that guy.
They're usually a lot of fun, though. They're the fun people.
Awesome. Well, tell us about this slide here.
We're going to talk about guns and drugs, of course. You know, every home that we show as a real estate agent probably has this in their home. Maybe not a firearm to the extent of what I have in the picture. But I've been in a lot of homes, and you open a closet door and you have a rifle or a shotgun leaning up against the back of the door. Very dangerous situation. Is it loaded? It probably is. Are you showing the house with parents that have children? And you let people get separated, and next thing you know, a child picks up and, hey, mom, dad, what's this? Very dangerous situation. So as agents, we have to be on the lookout for things like this. Drugs, obviously, there could be narcotics in the house, legitimate prescriptions. And some people, I've never experienced this, but some people obviously will dress nice, want to go see a home with the sole purpose of trying to go through the medicine cabinets or master owner suites and bathrooms and looking for narcotics.
Yeah.
And that, that's been put out nationwide for years. That does happen. So we're going to talk about that and ways to take safeguards to ensure that it doesn't happen to you.
Yeah, I fully believe that. I just watched a thing on Netflix about how if somebody gets addicted to some of these narcotics, even people that you wouldn't think, they become so addicted to it that they'll do anything to get it, and even beyond. And I mean, I'm just talking like normal people you wouldn't think, like the trench coat or the crazy pants. No, like somebody that you would consider your peer. A lot of times they get an injury or something, and they get prescribed, and they get hooked on them, and then it's a real shame, and it is an epidemic in this country.
It is. It's very tragic, and it's very commonplace. There are signs if you have that situational awareness mindset. There are things that you can do and be on the lookout for to try to safeguard against that. Hey, this next slide, we already talked about some samples of safety equipment that I'm going to bring into the classroom. This is a neat little slide. Again, this is a fun class. I like to joke with everybody, this is the safety equipment that I use, but I usually have a hard time finding a parking space for it. It'd be neat if we had one of those and available to us. Actually, Preston, just a side note, we took a trip out to Las Vegas, believe it or not, a couple months ago. And I saw there was a venue where you could go out and you could drive a tank for a certain fee. You could actually fire some artillery pieces. You could have all kinds of fun with military surplus equipment. The fees were pretty high to do that, so I didn't get to do any of that fun stuff. But
that's cool. I've heard about that. That's cool. Very cool. So let's see what else we got here. Tell us about this slide here, Terry.
Okay. Well, we're going to talk about, pros and cons of concealed carry permit, collateral damage possibilities. We're actually going to do a demonstration. I'm going to bring a gun and a knife to class if it's okay. But hey, this is a plastic knife, and this is a Nerf gun. So, okay. Preston, have you ever heard the saying, don't bring a knife to a gunfight?
Yeah, like that Indiana Jones thing from the movie.
Yep. So we're going to talk about that, but I'm going to do a demonstration that most people are going to find very surprising. If you have a knife and I have a weapon in a concealed carry situation, and you're about 15 feet away from me, you got the advantage. You're probably going to cut or stab me before I can disable you. I can get a round or two off, but that doesn't mean that I'm not still going to get hurt. So we're going to kind of debunk that myth and talk about the things that you should do when you're faced with somebody with a knife. And it's going to be a lot of fun.
I'll have to tell you a story sometime, Terry. I had a guy pulled a knife on me in college. I'll have to tell you that story at a party. It got de-escalated, thank goodness, but it was a tense situation. It was pretty tense. I mean, it was like one of those deals where it was a standoff. The entire party stopped, and
wow.
And I'd had a few drinks. I mean, Well, I got to tell you, I'll just tell you real quick. This guy had come, I hosted a party, and he had came earlier. And he had, I didn't realize it. I was getting ready for the party and this place that I was renting. And I had some neon signs, and a couple of these girls that I was friends with from back home, they were kind of helping me get ready. And anyway, these guys came by, and I was talking to them, friendly to them, whatever. And the next thing I knew, one of my neon signs was missing. And I was like, what happened? And the girl was like, that guy. And he was getting ready to get in his car. You know, there was 2 or 3 of them. And I went out to the car. I was like, hey, man, you see my neon sign? And I could see it in the car. I could see it.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I was younger then, Terry. I just went in the car and started wailing on him and pulled him out and got my neon sign out and went back. So whatever, you know, I was younger then. I probably wouldn't do that today. But anyway, we had a party. Everything's great. And then all of a sudden, I just, you know how you feel somebody staring at you, and all of a sudden, a guy came back with some of his friends, and he pulled a knife on me. But fortunately, and I was in a fraternity. All my fraternity brothers were there and everything. So, you know, and they were giving me signals. They were going to like jump the dude and all, you know, but what happened was everybody just like started, come on. I mean, they started shouting the guy down, like, come on, loser, what are you doing? You know, and some of his friends were like, man, we better leave, you know. So it just wound up being kind of a stand down sort of thing. Thank goodness. I mean, it was like a stare off. And, you know, I kept thinking, I was like, I'm just going to grab his wrist if I can and get hold of that knife. But thank goodness nothing happened, because, you know, I may not be here today if that would have went bad. But it was a bad situation, and there was alcohol involved as well. And, you know, maybe I'll learn something from this class.
Well, I'm glad you survived that. And yeah, people don't realize how dangerous a knife it can be. It doesn't have to be a big knife like, you know, I was holding up, but knives are very dangerous. So obviously, we're going to finish up the class. We're going to talk about self-defense options, and we're going to talk about fighting. And another slide I'm not going to share with you. You're going to have to wait and come to class. But if you think of fighting and you think of the movies, is there somebody that comes to mind that, you know, hey man, this person is awesome there?
I would think Chuck Norris, probably.
Really? That's surprising, because there's a little comparison with myself and Chuck Norris that I'm going to throw out to the class. I'm no Chuck Norris. However, you got to come to the class for me to finish that sentence.
All right.
So it's going to be fun. So we are going to talk about fighting. We're going to talk about self-defense techniques and some things that you could do to protect yourself as a last resort. And it is serious stuff. It doesn't matter what the size that you are, if you're male, female, how big the attacker is. I'm going to talk about some things that you could do to protect yourself, some of which that could be result in deadly force with your own hands. So you can protect yourself if you've got the right mindset, you're situationally aware, and you practice some of the techniques, do some self-defense training. You can easily protect yourself from an assailant with your own 2 hands. And it could result in you know, the death of the assailant if you, as a last resort. So while we laugh and have fun, the latter part of the class is really some serious stuff. We'll talk about the North Carolina Stand Your Ground law, things that you can do within your own house, and legalities. And obviously, I'm going to refer you to some other websites and attorneys for legal advice. There is a disclaimer that we're going to have to get everybody to sign or acknowledge that, hey, I'm not the only person that can give you suggestions on how to protect yourself. Every situation is different. You cannot rely on what I'm telling you or what someone else is telling you. You have to make up your own decision on how you're going to respond. And just know that you always have options. You know, flee is always going to be the first option, and fight is certainly going to be the last option.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm ready to take the class. I'm ready. Where are you teaching it next?
Hey, thanks for asking that, Preston. I do have it set up already. We are going to do another class in our Keller Williams Cornelius office. that is going to be Tuesday, October 27th.
Tuesday
The 27th at 2 p.m.
Okay. You need
It
to
is something you would need to register for, so please reach out to me and let me know. You are invited, of course. And if you would like to send somebody from your staff, they're more than welcome to attend as well. Obviously, we only have a limited space, so it's important to register first. And once I have enough registrations for the in-person class, then I'll open it up to Zoom to certain individuals, and that way you could watch it on Zoom if there's not enough classroom space for you.
Awesome. Well, and I think there's a two-part thing to this too. I mean, obviously, just learning how to be safe, it's the good thing, it's the right thing. It may save your life one day. And I hate to look at it from another perspective, but I'm going to go ahead and throw it out there. I own a business. So I think that if I had, I want to have Lauren maybe take this, and for her own safety, and I hope I don't come off but I also want the record to show that I took some precautions. Does that make sense? I was a responsible business. I know that's very selfish. The main reason is I want her to be safe, but I also, me being a responsible business owner. So if I'm a broker in charge, I'm thinking that I have taken steps to try to, to help keep my agent safe. Does that make sense? I hope I didn't.
Yeah, Preston, you hit the nail on the head. That's why I'm so passionate about this, as you probably picked up on from our discussions before, is this is open to anybody, any firm, even outside of real estate. As a business owner, we have a moral responsibility to make sure our employees are safe. And, if you can help them be safe by giving them a little 2-hour training class, I think that's a wise thing to do. Otherwise, you could be liable. Worst case scenario, if one of your employees or your agents in the real estate industry is attacked, and worst case scenario is killed, did you ever provide any training to that employee? And if you didn't, more than likely, it could wind up in litigation against your firm. So at least taking these steps would minimize that risk management and would limit your liability possibly. So I'm happy to do this. I'm willing to travel the Charlotte area. And just so, again, guys, just reach out to me and let's have a discussion on how I can help you and your firm or your business.
And how, and I've still got more questions for you. Don't go anywhere yet.
Okay.
While we're at that juncture, if anybody, if you're driving and you can pull over, tell us again how they can get in touch with you, Terry.
Preston, they can reach out to me. I'd love to talk to you on the phone if I'm not with a client. It's Terry Rogers is 704-560-9630. That's my cell. Leave a message if I don't answer, and I will get back with you the same day. Email is tdrogers. Rogers is spelled Rogers. So it's tdrogers@kw.com. And of course, you could text me as well. And just when you text me, if you're not in my phone book, I'm not going to know who you are. So text me and let me know who you are and what firm you're with. And you want to have a discussion about an agent safety class, and we'll get back to you.
Awesome. Now, to put a bow on this, and I still have a couple other questions if I hadn't held you up too long.
No,
Put a bow on this. If somebody's listening or watching this and they have an open house this weekend, and open houses, we love to have them, but to a certain extent, we can't control who's coming in there. What are 3 tips, just short version, what are 3 tips you would give somebody if they were having an open house to help ensure their safety?
Yeah, good question. So, Preston, first thing I would encourage anybody doing an open house is you got to have a buddy. Prefer to have a second person in that home with you. It can be another agent, of course, but it doesn't have to be. If I do an open house, I have my wife is there. She's not a licensed agent, but she's an extra pair of eyes. So if I've got more than one person in the house and somebody upstairs and somebody downstairs, for example, you've got, she'll go with the people upstairs, keep an eye, and especially in the owner's suite and owner's bath area where those guns and drugs are. So, you know, having that second person is a big asset. If that's not possible, you got to have a buddy system. You got to have somebody, again, another agent or a spouse that is going to check in with you at a predetermined time. The North Carolina Real Estate Commission actually recommends 1 hour, Preston. Check in at 1 hour. I think that's not enough. There's a lot that can happen in an hour. So I would encourage a firm to set up a policy, or an agent to set up a policy of checking in with someone every 30 minutes. It's merely a phone call. You making the phone call or somebody is calling you, you're giving them the okay that you know, everything is fine. But if something is not fine, if there is something that is telling you that you're in an uncomfortable situation, that you're uneasy in front of the person that you're with, you have to have a distress code. So we're going to talk about a distress code or distress signals that's not alarming to the person that you're in front of, that basically is a call for help telling your buddy, hey, you need to call 911 and send the police over here. There's something that's not right.
Okay.
So those are some things that you could do. Another thing that I would always recommend is tell your neighbors. There's a couple of reasons for that. The neighbors on each side of that open house, you want them to know that, hey, this is Terry, and I'm going to be here today between 3 and 5. It could open up, obviously, possible referrals or leads to you in networking. But it's the big point of this is to, hey, if you're there at 6 o'clock at night, if you see my car and I'm still there at 6 o'clock tonight, because I'm only supposed to be here from 3 to 5, would you please come check on me, knock on the door, make sure that I'm okay? So those are several things that you can do, and we're going to talk about those in class for open house safety. Good question.
You know, another thing that one will do about telling the neighbors is the neighbors want to know who their new neighbor is going to be.
That's
so
right.
They're going to be casing the people. They might give a better description of them than because we did. I remember when our house went up next door, we were like, who's it going to be? You think it'll be them? Oh, I hope it's them. They got, you know, or ooh, well, you know, what, you know, do they have young kids? Because at the time we had young kids, you know. So
well, neighbors are a good source of information and a good resource for that extra level of safety and security. They really are.
They're good for home inspection too, because they will tell you anything that ever happened to that house that they know about.
I bet so. Yeah, I didn't think about that.
All right. Well, Terry, I've held you up for a long time. You've been giving great information. Just got a couple more questions and maybe a little bit of fun. If you still have like 15 minutes.
Yeah, I can give you about 5 more.
Okay, 5 more. All right. Keep it G-rated. This is totally different from the thing. What's the craziest thing you've ever experienced, or the craziest story you've ever heard or been a part of in real estate? And you could change the names to keep.
Craziest story in real estate. Wow, that's a tough one.
I can come back to that one if you want me to.
There's always challenges, obviously, in the real estate industry. This wasn't necessarily crazy, but this was a challenge. I had an agent one time tell me we had a roof put on a property because there was some damage and they wanted a roof put on, which the seller agreed to do. And I was supposed to go out and take the wrapping off of a bundle of shingles and take it to the other agent so that they could ensure that the installation process was done properly. I thought that was a little crazy and over the top. It's like, sorry, I can't help you with that, but you're welcome to go do that yourself.
At one point, I'm gonna write a book because I asked every guest this, and that one's good. I like it. Well, in the interest of saving time, I don't want to hold you up. I got a bunch of questions, but these may be open-ended. I'll just go straight to the lightning round. This or that. So I give you 2 things. You say which one. Dog or cat?
Dog.
Netflix or YouTube?
Netflix, definitely.
Phone call or text?
Oh, the phone call, man. I am old school. The text lead to another text, lead to another text. So
It gets hard, man. I'm just not proficient with my thumbs like my kids are.
yeah, I can't type. I type with 2 fingers, and
I'll be on the text and I'm just like, I can't. I call them. I can't. I just can't.
oh, in the phone, doing the voice to text. Oh my
that was
goodness, I usually do that, and it doesn't come across too well sometimes.
You're exactly right. Cardio or weights? What would you rather do?
The cardio.
Cardio.
I need cardio. Trust me.
iOS or Android?
I'm sorry.
iOS or Apple or Android?
Android. I wouldn't know an iPhone if you throw it at me.
Wow, I'm an Android guy, but most people are iPhone. My whole family's iPhone. Football or basketball?
Professional football and college basketball. Go Heels.
There you go. I'm the Heels, but it's hard for me now though because my daughter goes to Clemson. So I've decided I'm rooting for Clemson in football and Carolina basketball. Although Carolina's football is pretty good this year. They got
this year, yeah, they've done well. Clemson is always steadfast in football. They are fun to watch.
Oh yeah, they are. I just can never bring myself to root for Duke ever. I can root for the Russians before I can root for them. Anyway, I probably just lost the Duke audience there. But anyway, which is worse to do, laundry or dishes?
Oh, let's see. Probably laundry.
Okay.
I don't mind doing the dishes because I'm not bending over. Laundry, I'm doing a lot of bending over because all these nicer units, they're low to the ground, unless they're on a pedestal. And I couldn't convince my wife when we bought our last washer and dryer to spend that extra money for the pedestal to raise it up so I could reach things a lot easier.
I hear you. Tennis shoes or flip-flops?
Flip-flops.
Yeah, that's a popular answer. Would you rather shop online or go to a store?
Usually I prefer to go to a store, but my wife has got me into doing a lot of shopping online. Amazon is pretty hard to beat.
It is. I hate it though, because I know it's what it's doing to mom and pops, but they make it easy for the consumer. There's a lesson in that for all of us. The easier you can make it for the consumer. Car or truck?
I am dying to get another truck. I'm having to convince my wife. That's going to take a few months to get her on board. Hey, every guy needs a truck, and I've had a couple, and it's time for another one.
Yeah, I've had Ford, Chevy, Dodge, and I've loved them all. But this Tacoma that I got right now is by far my favorite. I love this.
Yeah, I'm a Ford guy.
I've had an F-150. I liked it. Would you rather spend a day at the beach or at amusement park?
A day at the beach. Yeah, not a big amusement park fan.
Winter or summer?
Summer.
Beach or mountains?
Probably beach if it's in the Caribbean. I love my clear water, my scuba diving, snorkeling. But yeah, our local beaches, it's just not the same. So mountains.
Mountains. The most important this or that question, the toilet paper question, over or under?
Definitely under.
Under, really?
Yeah.
All right, one last lightning round and then one final question and we're done.
Sure.
All right, see if you can finish. This is finish the song lyrics. Can you hear it?
Yes.
So when I stop, see if you can finish the lyrics. All right, finish the song lyrics.
You got me. I love the Eagles.
Welcome
To the Hotel California.
There you go. There you go.
I didn't hear the very end of that. I wasn't sure where you left off. But.
Yeah, I was trying to get a point to where I could get to the chorus. I saw you're an Eagles fan. I was trying to find something with police or law enforcement, but I just couldn't. the police, the group, but then that was too many degrees of separation. Last question, Terry, I know you got to go. If you woke up tomorrow in a brand new place, just bear with me here. You still have all your knowledge, all your equipment, all your room and board, but you woke up in a brand new place. You didn't know anybody, but you had $5,000 to market real estate. What would you do? Basically, it's a question like, what's your best return on, you see what I'm saying? Like if you woke up tomorrow, you don't have to buy, you got all your equipment, your laptop, room board taken care of, but you have $5,000 and you don't know anybody. What would you do? Basically like a new realtor.
The biggest thing, Preston, is marketing. So you can get so much bang for your buck with some online marketing. Get your name out there. I think that's where I would start. The print advertising just doesn't do it anymore. The print advertising makes the sellers feel good when their home is in the magazine, but the online marketing, branding yourself as a new agent is most important. And hey, it's that work ethic. It's treating your business like a business is going to help you succeed. You got to get up in the morning, you got to get dressed, you got to get on the phone, you start your lead generation and reaching out to people Anytime you go out to a store, pass out that business card, wear your name tag as a new agent. Trust me, things will fall into your lap. You just treat it like a business.
Absolutely. Well, Terry, thank you so much. This has been fun. I'm sorry we ran a little bit over the time that I told you, but it was fun. I hope it was fun for you.
Yeah. I just really enjoyed it. The opportunity, Preston. You're a lot of fun. I do want to just give a shout out to obviously all of our local law enforcement, first responders for the jobs that they do for us these days, the medical personnel and the situation that we're in. Thank you for your service. And another shout out to all the officers that I served with back with Charlotte Police Reserves, the airport police. Guys, I love you. You're always in my memories, even 40 years later. I hope you're all doing well. And hey, reach out to me and let's have an adult beverage sometime.
That sounds good. Terry, one last time, for the people who are interested in your class or getting in touch with you, I'm sure they can find you on Facebook. And one more time, what's the email and what's the phone number?
Yeah, email is tdrogers@kw.com. I am on, of course, Facebook and LinkedIn. Phone number 704-560-9630. Terry Rogers. A tradition of trust with proven results. That's kind of my slogan that I like to adhere to.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Terry. I appreciate all the gold nuggets and all the value you gave today.
Preston, thank you for everything you do for our industry.
All right. I'm going to catch you in that class, brother.
All right. Sounds good. See you on the streets.
Have a good one.
Bye.
Bye.
You've been listening to the Successful Real Estate Broker Podcast with your host, Preston Sandlin. Join us on the next episode where we'll be talking to a successful agent or vendor about the right things to do and the wrong things you should avoid. Join us on the next episode of the Successful Real Estate Broker Podcast.